Hello, it's Anna and Sophie from Soundyard here. We make Chris Skinner's Countryside podcast, and we've got something very exciting to share with you. We have a new service that's being launched, and it's called Spoken Stories.
Spoken Stories is all about recording the voices and memories of your loved ones in outstanding quality, so they can be enjoyed for generations to come. For example, you know the story that Grandma tells that everyone in the family has heard before. Well, Spoken Stories is about getting those stories down and preserving them for your family history. Spoken Stories is about gifting someone the time to capture these personalities and unique voices.
We record your loved ones' tales, whether it's their whole life story so far or something more specific like a life-changing event. It is a gorgeous experience, and what you're left with is a beautiful monologue that really captures the essence of that person.
Think of it like an audio portrait, and take a listen to a snippet of this one from Diane's spoken story, recorded in her beautiful garden.
I was born in 1951 at Newmarket, and unfortunately I didn't see Mum for a year. I was looked after by a lovely nurse called Diane, my name, because my mum had TB when I was born. And so my mother never worked because with her problem with her, lungs, she had to go and have it sort of pumped up every so often. She used to do a lot of dressmaking, so she always made our clothes years ago. But yeah, she was a lovely mum, yeah, and Dad as well, yeah. That's very nice childhood I had, yeah, very nice. Yeah. I got married February the 16th, 1974. The weather was gorgeous. I ended up having to put on a big sort of T-shirt under my wedding dress I didn't need. I had a lovely one of those transparent umbrellas in case it rained, and it was just a beautiful day. I think I'm always sort of quite cheerful. I mean, if I go down the Luke and deliver some eggs to somebody, I'll meet somebody and chat, and then Paul say, "Where have you been?" I said, "I've been chatting to people." That's just my way. That's just how I am. We've always lived here. We had this built in 1974. They put the footings down in February and we moved in the August. Years ago, I used to go around the village on a bike, and when I had Ian, he'd sit on the back. We live in a lovely area. We've got lovely neighbours. They help us all out, which you all do with neighbours, and that's very, very nice. And as I said to Paul, I'm hoping we can keep this place on until, well, I don't want to move from here until I go out in a brown box. I hope that's not too soon.
If you'd like more information about Spoken Stories and to take advantage of our special introductory offer, you can head to www.soundyard.org/spoken stories.
And keep listening after this episode with Chris, and you'll hear another example of a spoken story. It's a view of the world from a 6-year-old.
Chris has turned his mobile phone off so he can give us his undivided attention, and here we are once again. It's a grey morning but still very mild, shirt sleeve order here on High Ash Farm near Norwich, and Chris Skinner, our guide, Farmer Chris. And Chris, you've taken us to a bank we've visited before to see rabbits.
Yes, rabbits galore here. It's almost crystal white sand. There's a burrow there, and Rat is investigating it as we speak, my terrible terrier. Anyway, welcome to High Ash Farm, Matthew.
He's having a dig.
He is. Oh no, he's disappeared out of sight. Oh no. I need new batteries in my pacemaker now. Oh dear.
I mean, they're too big for rabbits. Presumably there's a fox or something.
That is the trouble. So, and it is a trouble. Would you believe that? He's such a good lad. We better go and investigate. And
well, I can't see him. Oh, I can see his tail, I think.
Rat, we need you here.
It's just that hole is rat-sized.
Yes.
Perfect for him.
It can. Yes, I can't help because it's heading
Here
down.
Here he comes.
Oh, good.
Oh, he's going on another one. Come on.
No. Dreadful dog.
Chris Skinner's Countryside Podcast with Matthew Gudgeon.
To tell you the truth, I don't know what we're looking at, which is always a mystery. I'll explain. There's quite a steep, almost vertical bank in front of us. It's about 4 feet tall, and large holes all over, which are the rabbit holes, which Rat just investigated. And if you listen carefully,
They're very quiet, aren't they? But there's hundreds of them.
absolutely, I would say thousands along here. The whole bank is swarming with half-sized bees. And I don't know, I will be honest, because I come across things with you when we go out on the farm completely by chance. And I know many of the people, animals, birds that I share the farm with here, but I don't know all the species or their names. Generally, I have a chance to look them up. And this has taken me by surprise because it's swarming with these tiny bees. And to give you an idea, if I get right down close and you come down beside me, we'll wait for one to settle. And they are tiny. As I said, oh, one's just gone in a hole and another one's coming out. And they're not mason bees, they're solitary bees. Rat seems oblivious to them. He's checking out this large hole. And some of them are going right down into the rabbit burrows. And presumably they're using this week as their hibernation week, so they're going to hibernate. And they are tiny, about 4-5 millimetres long at the most. So imagine a honeybee, Apis mellifera, the scientific name. These are less than half the size. And of course, they're in the news. Pollinators, all the bee species are hugely declining, and this is a sight to warm the heart. Although I don't know their names, and I do like to get personal with what we're visiting.
Well, we've got about a 4-foot bank here,
Yes.
haven't we, of soil and sand underneath, very sandy soil, and it's like a Swiss cheese, lots of little holes.
Yes, and they're actually going into the rabbit burrows as well, quite deep down into the soil. And they're just investigating all the holes. Some of them will have had eggs laid in them by mason bees, who've recently changed their scientific name. They were called Osmia rufa, and they seal over the little holes when they're finished laying a selection of eggs, pollen and nectar down the holes, and then they seal the hole over, and they come out next spring. You can see the bees, these minuscule little bees, going down into the rabbit burrow, and it's an amazing sight. I'm absolutely enthralled.
And they've just colonised here.
Yes, because banks and old clay block buildings, many of which we've lost over the recent decades, or they've been plastered over and made unsuitable. So sites like this, and we looked at woodpeckers' holes last week. You know, any nesting site for any creature, whether it's insect, or mammal, the whole variety of them, all need special nest sites or somewhere. And somehow or other, all these bees, all the way along this sort of sandy wall, have congregated together. They're obviously going to mate, and then they're going to hibernate as adults. Some are going into the holes. But I will have to look them up and see if I can give the answer. And next week's podcast, we'll get somebody down with a micro lens so we can actually take a picture of one and have it formally identified.
Because your description of them being half-size is entirely accurate, isn't it?
Yes.
They're perfect little bees, but
Yes.
they're
Yes,
sort of less than half an inch.
Yes, they're not wasps, and they're the same colour as honeybees, the common bee, which we've looked at in the past. But if we just hold the microphone just into the rabbit burrow a little bit, I think we'll be able to hear them.
In fact, there seems to be more than when we first arrived. Do they sting?
See, I don't know. I can't tell you. And it's lovely with natural history. You never can know all the species and all the things that if you're walking out in the countryside, and to be honest, you don't need to know. It's just about the enjoyment. So I don't feel ignorant about what I'm watching. I feel enthralled.
You must feel encouraged as well that
Yes.
new species are coming here.
Yes. Like last week, we looked at a new species of moth, and we're still trying to find out, and it's called the Norfolk snout. And we have a question about that a little later on. Some have just come out there, tiny and freshly emerged. This one's just come out of the little burrow. It's minuscule. Obviously, it's like a quarter-sized honeybee, and it's just flown off. And some of them, they're actually mating as we're watching. So it's a whole new raft of experience for me, which I love, because I love nature and I love to be challenged by it. And then you start to learn about things in a particular way, whether it's a bird that you haven't seen before. In this case, it's insects for me. And I was just watching one mating, and the female presumably wasn't going to have it. And it just discarded the male very rudely, and one just coming out of a little burrow there, right on the tip of my finger. Wonderful, Matthew. So you don't need to know. So occasionally I'll bring you to, we'll visit harvest mice, which weigh less than a 2p coin, one of Britain's smallest mammals. And I'm just going to drive us 25 yards just further down the track. There's an old pond which is almost dried up, and something special happened last night. So we'll go and have a look.
The ducks at High Ash Farm going in to roost for an evening. Hey everyone, it's Matthew here, and if you've been enjoying our countryside podcasts, we've got a small favour to ask.
Yes, Matthew. What we're going to do is to ask for a small donation to help run the podcast, and any surplus goes for conservation at High Ash Farm here. And so it's really important. We both love to keep the podcast going, and that duck agrees with me, I think.
Well, it's straightforward to donate. You can make a one-off donation or set up a small monthly contribution, and the address is highashfarm.com/podcast.
We're hugely grateful for any support. It means we can keep sharing the stories of the countryside, which I love doing each week, but it's that small amount of costs we need to cover. So thank you very much in advance.
Watering hole in the Serengeti, this, isn't it? You expect some wildebeest to come along, but this is one of your ponds that's actually dried up in the summer.
Yes, there's about a couple of 100 gallons of water left in the lowest part of it. Rat's jumped out of the truck already, and he's walking about on the base of the pond. As I said, most of it's dry, but I promised you something special here, and it happened last night. And if we just walk down, you've got your shoes on, but I think the pond base is dry enough to allow you down here.
So down we go, 2 or 3 feet to the level of where the water would be.
And
oh my word,
you can see some deer prints there.
Yes.
In the mud.
Lots of them.
And also bird prints, lots of deer. And that's roe deer. That's one of the fairies of the wood, I like to call them, one of their native species. And although we just visited the bees, some of the smallest inhabitants of High Ash Farm, a surprise last night, Britain's largest land mammal, wild one, walked through the pond here and came right past where we are. Just look here.
These are huge,
around
these prints.
100 kilos.
And they're 6 inches deep.
Of stag deer, and is single. So you heard of a stag party where you have all males together, and at this time of the year the male groups will start to break up. Individuals will go hunting for the girls that are still in their harems, and the competing males will start their rut. Really towards the end of this month, September time, is when the red deer rut starts, and they're becoming more common over in the East Country. You normally associate them up with Scotland. They're big, big animals, 48 inches to the shoulders and 100 kilos, and then you can have nearly the same height again with a full set of antlers. They're pretty formidable.
I can easily get my fist into that print. It goes right down.
It does.
And he was going that way.
He came here to have a drink. Look, there. So he came in from that side.
This
of
is
the
all
pond.
quite soft mud here.
Yes, and so that's perfect. And I love this time of the year. Rats rolling in it now. Would you believe it? Oh dear, that'll be Bath when he gets home. Anyway, he came in there and he walked through the water, had a drink obviously, and then carried on regardless. And the little clue as to how I know it's a large deer, not that there's any doubt about it, is on the back of the deer's feet are two claws. They're called dew claws. Now have a look at the back here.
It's two parallel lines, isn't there?
Yes, it's gone straight down into the mud, and that's the hoof print, or the footprint at the bottom.
And it's a very sheer front to this print,
Yes,
isn't it?
there is.
So
Well,
that's
he
the
just
hoof.
Walked along like that, and the dew claws went in. There's two more there, cut through the mud, and it's left a perfect thing. As I said, snow's another good giveaway as to what, if you're out walking in the winter months and it's covering snow on the ground and it's early in the morning, you can always see who's been about the night before. Birds, you can see sometimes a pile of feathers and all little footmarks around it where a tawny or a barn owl's made a kill. And at this time of the year, you get little damp patches of mud like this as ponds dry up, and you have a whole series of clues as to who came here to have a drink. So roe deer have been here, muntjac deer have been here, and your sort of comparison with the Serengeti with hippopotamus or whatever. And again, we've got a question of that. Somebody sent a picture when we do our questions in a short while of their back garden, and it's an astonishing sight. But this is amazing. It just leaves a really certain clue as to who's about.
And a magnificent creature
Yes.
straight from the front of a tin of soup.
Yes, exactly that. The old Campbell's advert, isn't it? Is that the right soup?
Monarch of the
Glen.
of High Ash Farm.
Yes, of High Ash. Look at that, though. Really powerful animal, big strides, and left the dew claws at the back of the footprint, and that one's in 6-7 inches deep into the mud, and it's left a perfect print for us.
Lovely
How
impression.
exciting is that?
And there are others as well, little
Yes.
ghostly marks, maybe a badger's made.
Yes, they all come and have a drink, and obviously there's been a heron there as well. Some large sort of footprints in the edge of the mud as it's skirted right round the pond, just looking for any easy prey to actually any fish that are left stranded in the remaining water. So there we are, nature's secrets uncovered for us by magic.
Sun's starting to come out. Here we are, still in September, and it's very warm. And it's a lovely day on High Ash Farm. Lots of pine cones on the ground here, and lots of insect activity
Look
as well.
behind you, Matthew.
And what have you seen?
Flying above your head,
Oh,
dragonflies.
yeah,
Mating,
there they are.
two together.
And those wings really going 10 to the dozen.
Yes, wow, that's a lovely sight. Sun, as you said, just beginning to break through the clouds, so there's some warmth here. Pine cones dropping off the trees already. That's a sign that they've shed their seed. And
Are these Scots pine?
no, that's not. That's Corsican pine, that one. The pine cone is slightly different shape.
There's a lovely one there.
Yes, it's opened up and they hang downwards. They're on the tree for 2 or even 3 years before they come off. but very flammable as well. Some people use them as firelighters. You can gather them this time of the year, put them in a bag, and 6 or 7 together with a little bit of newspaper. Many people are using log burners now, and that's a good inexpensive way of starting your fire off for the winter, and quite environmentally friendly as well. Anyway, we've come to Cantley Hill Plantation. It's 12 acres of mature trees, and virtually every tree has ivy on it. And ivy is another one of those controversial plants. You know, a few weeks ago we visited Himalayan balsam at the farm, and we investigated that and its properties and how it's sort of spreading and seemingly like the UK. And ivy is also a little bit controversial as well, because some people like it and some people dislike it. Oh, just up in the top there, just landed a red admiral butterfly, just emerging as the sun comes out. You can just feel the warmth now. And ivy and butterflies closely linked together with lots of insects, because it comes into flower, ivy, this is at this time of the year. And many people ask, so, are people walking through the farm all day, every day, and why is there so many butterflies here on a butterfly scarce year? And part of the answer is ivy. And they said, well, no, it's only in flower for about 2 to 3 weeks, at mid-September to mid-October. So why are the butterflies here? And of course, adult butterflies, some of our native species, hibernate in ivy. So it's a plant for all seasons, and I can give you a whole list of why it's here and why I don't cut it off the trees. And you can see the ivy there. There's a little gap where the ivy is close to the
You've cut
ground.
underneath there. It looks like human intervention. But
No, that's the what we call the browse line.
it's
because
perfect though, isn't it? If you went
It's-
under there with a trimmer, you'd
Yes, it looks like that, doesn't it? But everything after that, and if you stand here a little bit, the ivy goes up, well, about 70 feet on this Corsican pine.
and all those flower heads.
Yes, and so this is the time of year it comes into flower. Little drum heads to start with, which start to form mid to late summer, and now this is the time it comes into full flower. Oh, the sun's just come out, and so when that happens, this will come alive, particularly this little later this afternoon. We've got some warm weather and full sunshine, and this will be covered in red admirals, a few peacocks. Peacock butterflies are very scarce this year, and a woodland species which lives quite well into the wood here is the comma butterfly, and I'll see if I can get the camera here this afternoon and get a little bit of footage of both of those species here. And just as we arrived, I saw, and I can still see, a hornet just flying through there, just skirting through for any unsuspecting insects, and that immediately scared off a red admiral butterfly, which scooched over the top of the ivy here and disappeared into the wood there. So, as I said, it's a plant for all seasons. Foresters don't like it because it's hard work when you fell a tree for timber. You've then got to skin all the ivy off the trunk to get to the wood. And also, when ivy goes up into tall trees, it can form quite a large windbird. Remember, with deciduous trees, they're quite brittle. Things like beech trees, oak trees, even sycamore, ivy will go up, and it's rather like having your full rigging on a sailing ship in the middle of winter when the leaves have all dropped off and you don't want that extra burden. We've had some quite serious winds here in the UK over the last few years, so sometimes you'll see trees with ivy on just bowled over.
What about allowing ivy to grow on walls?
Brilliant, yes, absolutely brilliant. Again, some people don't like it. They say it keeps the masonry damp underneath, which it doesn't do because of the way ivy arranges its leaves they kind of overlap, so you get maximum light onto the leaves, and it also forms a little like an umbrella, if you like, to stop things, and that's why it's brilliant for butterfly adults to hibernate in the winter months. Because it's dry in there and they can just fold their wings up, and butterflies, things like peacocks, even the red admirals, small tortoiseshells, and commas as well. When they fold their wings up, in particular the comma butterfly, just looks like a crunched up brown leaf with a little white comma on the underside of the wings, and that gives it its name. So on walls, garden walls, it's very attractive. It stays green, and that's really valuable in the winter months when everything else is brown and the leaves, the deciduous trees, have lost their leaves, so it gives some colour as well. And I can see a speckled wood just flying about over the top there,
yes.
just looking round.
There he is.
Just coming out from, and it's coming down quite low, quite close to us. Oh, please land. Just
Came over to see us, didn't he? There he is.
There it is. Yeah, it might come back into land. It's just looking round for a mate. That's a proper woodland species. So, as I said, it's a plant for all seasons. So if we choose January, when these drumheads have finished flowering, and that's the last pollen and nectar flow of the year for things like butterflies and flies and insects to take in the pollen and the nectar to get them through the winter. Then January, the black-coloured ivy berries ripen, and that will feed winter visiting thrushes together with our own many thrush species like blackbirds. Song thrushes will even eat them. Robins will eat the berries. Wood pigeons love the berries as well. And that's a valuable food source in what we call the hungry gap, the January, February, March time. And there's a hornet just skirting round.
Oh, look, a
over
lovely,
that.
lovely big example.
Yes, yeah, just twice the size of the common wasp, so, and love those as well. They're really valuable and quite a scarce insect these days as well, just flying over. So after the berries have all been eaten, it's a brilliant habitat for birds to nest in as well. And again, during that hungry gap, a little bird like a wren with a Latin name, troglodytes, the cave dweller, will creep in either to a stone wall or into ivy and just disappear. And of course, close to the tree trunk, it's like a little microclimate in there, dry, full of spiders and insects, and it's perfect habitat to eat insects as well. So that helps little insectivorous birds which stay with us over the winter, like the wren, the common wren, to feed. And then during the summer, it starts to form these little drumheads, which are in front of us now, which are in full flower. And you can see it's covered in insects. There's a tree trunk in front, which is snapped off about 12 feet high. And the whole thing is a whole dome of ivy. And if we go up close, Matthew, to this huge clump of ivy, the leaves are very, and that's Rat, by the way. We've walked away from him. And
How dare you, he says.
and the leaves are lance-shaped, completely different shape, but they only occur on the flowering shoots. And you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drumheads of different to sort of come into flower at different times on that single shoot. The whole thing is covered in thousands of these little flowering drumheads, I call them. And then they, the sort of, I don't know quite how to describe it, the leaf shape is completely different on the flowering shoots. So if we try and look in a little bit and go right into the tree, I don't know if this is a rather special ivy plant, because normally ivy leaves have 3 or 4 points on them. So what's happened here is the tree got, the top got blown off and just left the vegetative reproductive part of the ivy plant, whereas normally ivy has 2 shaped leaves. So we're going to have to move to the next tree. Poor Matthew.
Being careful
That
not
is
to
really not to go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, like Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
Oh, this is the next one here.
So
this
is the
looks
next-
different.
The next tree, again, you've got these lance or lobe-shaped leaves here, which is the flowering shoots. And then if we go in a little bit closer to the tree trunk, you can see it's 3 or 4 feet back. And I'm going to have to dive in there somehow and see if I can find you a proper leaf. a proper ivy leaf, which
Oh,
is
he's
here.
going right in. Oh,
Oh, goodness. The things I do. Here we are. And that's got 1, 2, 3 little lobes on it. And so completely different leaf shape to these flowering shoots. You can see if I pull the leaf off there.
yes, that's
They-
long and narrow. That one's more like a maple leaf.
Yes, it is, yes. So it has 2 leaf shapes, and so you can always tell when it's going to flower because the leaf shape changes. But it's such a valuable plant that it's always welcome at the farm here. And particularly this year when there's a shortage of pollinators, it's just helping those that have survived over that cold, wet spring that we had in early 2024, which killed a lot of our hibernating insects, which is why numbers are down this year. That hopefully those that have survived and they can feed up now, and they'll be out nice bright and early next spring to start the next generation of butterflies and insects off.
It's a
But
conservation hero, ivy. It's not poisonous at all.
Not at all, and it's not a parasite, and generally it doesn't compete with a tree. Something like an oak tree is deep rooted, that will get its moisture and sustenance from way down in the soil. Ivy roots quite close to the tree, and it doesn't actually compete with the tree for nutrients either. See, things I do for the podcast. Look, I went
Oh.
into the ivy.
Oh, you've been injured there.
I've injured myself now, so we've got
Oh,
a bright red arm. I don't mind at all. Yes, I'm built tough and strong. You know, I'm a proper boy. Yes.
Health and safety. Oh, right, we better go back to the farmyard
Yes,
then and
we
get
had,
some
and-
Dettol or something.
Yes, that's it. Yes, yeah. my mum would use tincture of iodine. And
Iodine,
I'd
yes,
have
that yellow stuff.
I'd have been stayed as though I'd been a heavy smoker from the word go. I got that on my fingers, and I can see some stalks moving over there in a rather violent fashion, and I would think we've lost Rat
Raticus dogicus has gone walkabout.
down another rabbit hole. So I think we're going to have to call him, and then we'll go and find some listeners' questions. Good boy, come on. Up in the car.
Back in the farmyard, next to Chris's home, and a giant blue Bowser as well, water Bowser. How many gallons does that hold?
That's 10,000 litres, so that's 10 tonnes of water. And on top of that, my delinquent terrier has now found some of the bantam chickens in a hedge.
They were enjoying themselves in that hedge, but Rat has rooted them out.
Yes, he doesn't think they should be in the hedge, so he thinks that's fair game. He won't hurt them, he'll just get them out onto the lawn where they should be. It's all go at the farm.
And lots in the mailbag as well, with some emails from you. Here are some of them. Jan Morritt from St Augustine's says, I've been feeding the goldfinch with Niger seeds and watching them as well. And I was watching them earlier. I observed a young goldfinch intently watching a great tit feeding on peanuts. So he hopped on and had a go too. Is that odd, a different species taking on another species' feeding habit? Surely they wouldn't normally eat peanuts.
No, they wouldn't. And of course, peanut in the UK is a very unusual food, although it's highly nutritious with protein and oils as well, and lots of starch. So it is a suitable food, but one that goldfinches would never ever normally come across. And so all it's doing is copying another bird and sort of learning how to feed itself. And if another bird's eating something, then that's probably a good indication it's okay. But really unusual, well spotted.
She says as well, Jan says her dunnocks have had 3 broods.
Yes, this is right in the middle of Norwich, remember, and I think she's got a balcony way up in St Augustine's there, sort of panoramic view over the city.
Where I used to go swimming as a schoolboy.
Yes, of course, and I did as well. The water was freezing cold, I just remember.
It was character building there.
It was, and there was a big diving board down at one end of the pool. You had to just be careful not to bomb onto anybody. But it's an interesting area of the city, and to have goldfinches out in the middle of Norwich as well. The first place I came across goldfinches was the Britain's Arms, right behind St Peter's Hungate Church. quite close to Norwich Cathedral, and there was 50 goldfinches on various Niger feeders right in the centre of Norwich. Absolutely amazing. So it is surprising. It's one of the bird species. Many of them have bad news that they're declining, but goldfinches are bucking the trend thanks to people feeding them in their gardens. Well done, Jan.
A report here from the beautiful Peak District, and it's Chris who sends this note. Bird song once again more prevalent, particularly the robins. Is this autumnal bird song more of a territory marking? Is it just mainly robins that do it at this time of the year, or different species? Here on my daily walk, I'm hearing mainly robins, wrens and occasional blackbirds. Jackdaws never stop, he says.
No, quite right. They don't stop talking. Robins are pretty quiet between June and July. That's the time of year that robins molt, and they kind of skulk away in the bushes at the back of your garden or out in the countryside and go quiet. But at that time of the year, or this time of the year, mid-September onwards, October and November, they all start singing again, and it's one of those welcome sounds. They're not unique, because owls will soon start pairing up as well. So robins start to pair up and singing in their territory. So it's pairing and territorial. Jackdaws and rooks starting to pair up as well. And starlings just never stop chattering from one end of the year to the other. And they're chatting as they're feeding, and as they go to roost, they kind of share the good spots where they've been feeding. And so then that's where you get all the mimicry from.
And here's another of your favourites, Chris, a photograph of a moth.
Yes.
Joseph and Catherine just wonder if you can help us identify this tiny day moth. Very sunny and warm Monday morning in Northumberland, and this lovely moth is basking in the sun on a leaf in our pear tree, no more than 5 millimetres long, and the shape is that of a mini Vulcan bomber.
Yes.
Do you remember those incredible
I certainly
machines?
can. They've flown over the farm here in the past. Very noisy, trails of black smoke coming out the end of it. Moths don't do that.
An ecological nightmare, really, but
Absolutely.
they were beautiful aircraft.
Yes, massive wingspan, and hence the Vulcan shape. And so what you've got there is the nettle tap moth, and if you want to look it up using a number, it's number 1767, and it's called the common nettle tap. And here it is, a lovely picture of it in my moth book. It takes me hours to find it because the photograph wasn't in focus. It's very common, particularly on rough ground, hedges and gardens. Flies May to September. Larva fields on common nettle, hence the nettle tap. So there we are, and it's under 10 millimetres long, so it's classed as a micro moth.
Chris on the podcast discussed the Norfolk snout moth being extinct, says Ari, but recently rediscovered. I believe a better word for what Chris was describing would be extirpated.
Yes, and I've had to think about that because I've heard that word before. It's not one that is in my common language, but it's one my father used. You know, you need to extirpate those weeds on the field, which means completely obliterate them. But I suppose to be extinct, which the Norfolk tap moth was meant to be, the Norfolk snout or whatever it's called, it was meant to be extinct, but it obviously isn't. So to be extinct, the extinction's forever, as they say. But in this case, it was only extinct locally. So extirpated might actually be a better word to describe it. Well done, and thank you. I love new words to be used. You know, I bring them into my dictionary of words in my head. So there we are.
And here's another one from Craig Campbell, listening down under.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people tune in Australia, and you're all very welcome. And Craig listens every week, and he says, thank you, Chris. No question, just thought I'd send some photographs. It's our backyard, the Redcliffe Golf Course in Queensland. Keep up the good work. And here's the photograph, Chris. I mean, you better tell us what that species is.
Yes, well, it's a kangaroo, one of the marsupials. It's not a wallaby. They're giant, and there's 12 of them in the picture under some really mature trees.
They go round like gangs of teenagers.
They
don't
certainly do. Look at that. What an amazing sight. Here we've got rabbits, which kind of look like miniature kangaroos when they sit up straight, but rabbits are pure mammals. So are kangaroos, but kangaroos are marsupials and they carry their young in a little pouch. And I think the young are called joeys, if I remember correctly.
And when we visit Australia, we get very excited about this site, don't we? But of course, to an Australian and people I've visited in Perth, in Western Australia, they just barely notice them. They're just an everyday sight.
Yes, and they're grazed that golf course better than you could actually mow it. Short grazed grass, always welcome.
David, who lives at Thorpe St Andrew, which is only a couple of miles over the river here, isn't it? Says, Dear Chris Skinner, thank you for your unmissable podcast. I'm fascinated by the number of different terms used for a flock of birds. Today, the very apt charm of goldfinches, that's what we were talking about last week, wasn't it? But David says, my favourite has to be a reliant of robins.
I think somebody's pulling his leg on that one.
Do you remember the three-wheel car?
I certainly do, but and it was meant to be quite a reliable vehicle unless you went round a corner too quickly, and then it wasn't particularly reliable because it would turn over. But there are lots of names. Obviously, I've heard of a parliament of rooks, a gaggle of geese, and a clutch of chickens, which a brood, which is just behind me. We call it a clutch.
A complaint of farmers?
Yeah, a complaint. Yeah, that's a well-known one, yes.
But David makes a point here. He said, would there ever be such a gathering? Because robins they just go around in twos, don't they?
Generally they do, and anything more than two is a fight. So
You're never going to get a reliant of robins.
No, probably not. But lots of people have sort of added names to that list, and it's grown absolutely huge now. One or two I can kind of live with. Snipe is an interesting one. It's called a wisp of snipe. There we are. I think we better finish at that point before it deteriorates anymore.
Email address for future episodes, chris@countryside.podcast.co.uk. Have a great week, Chris. Hope the sun shines on your endeavours, and you better get that cut sorted out.
Yes, it's all right. It's I think it will heal up. It looks a bit jagged, doesn't it? That's what you get for doing live podcasts as best it can be. Well, that's what happens in the countryside. You have to be rough and ready.
He suffers for his art.
I certainly do. You can see how much I've suffered. Look at the state of me.
The bantams have been disturbed now, look.
Rats asleep in a footwell on the truck, ready for the next adventure.
This is a Soundyard production. Music is by Tom Harris.
Hello, it's Anna and Sophie from Soundyard here. Our new service, Spoken Stories, is an incredible experience where we record the stories and voice of your loved one, which you can then hold on to forever.
It makes for an incredible gift, and anyone can make one. Take a listen to this. It beautifully captures the thoughts and feelings of life from a 6-year-old's perspective.
I'm 6 years old and I love running around. I can run very, very fast, but I'm even faster on my bike. That's why I love biking. It makes me feel energetic. And also I bike loads of places. I like doing sports like dodgeball. The people that are in charge in the world, well, I think that there should be no one in charge at all. So everyone's in charge. So there's no person that's in charge. So everyone is it's a bit more free. That's what I think. Well, what I try to change at the moment is global warming. It's when us humans litter, destroy the planet. and all its nature. That's global warming. It makes me feel sad. And also, if us humans keep doing that, and that it could destroy the whole planet Earth, and then all of the human beings will be destroyed. I try to stop global warming. And also, in my coat pocket, I have a bit of Kit Kat litter I found on the floor once. I love the planet more than anything. Grown-ups should be stopping global warming, because grown-ups are more powerful than kids. But if kids can be more powerful than grown-ups, kids and grown-ups can work together and do it. Kids should be able to do the same things as grown-ups. They should have more rights. Well, I love myself because that I believe in a lot of things. That's what I love about myself. I like being a kid, but because when I'm a grown up, I'm gonna have my own kids because that's what I want. And also, I'm a bit worried to have kids. And I'm still going to be a kid for like a long, long time. So I'm glad that's actually going to happen. I'm glad I'm going to stay a kid for a long time. I'm going to have kids because I want to know what it feels like to be a parent. I'm going to be a good parent.
Isn't that just gorgeous? If you'd like to find out more about recording a spoken story of your own, or you'd like to buy this as a present for someone, take a look at our website, www.soundyard.org/spoken stories, and take advantage of our introductory offer. Alternatively, you can get in touch via email, hello@soundyard.org.
And if the internet isn't an option, you can leave a message with your details on our landline number. It's 01603 273 899, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.